Florida, what happened? The Edmonton Oilers just beat the Florida Panthers by a score of 8-1 last night, which is definitely not what anybody expected. I thought that Florida was going to lift the cup last night, but they just didn't show up at all. Now let's get right into the first period. So Edmonton takes a penalty pretty early on, putting the Panthers on the power play, and they have a couple good chances, including a post hit. However, Connor Brown gets the puck, and he and Mattias Janmark go on a 2-on-1 breakaway where Brown is able to get Sergei Bobrovsky out of the crease, and he makes a pass to Janmark, who scores short-handed to put the Oilers up 1-0. A few minutes later, Adam Henrique is able to score off of his centering pass from Janmark, which doubles Edmonton's lead, so now 2-0 Oilers. The Panthers do respond a bit later on in the period, as Forsling fires a shot from pretty far back, which is tipped in by Vladimir Tarasenko, making the game 2-1. However, from here on out, the Panthers would get absolutely destroyed by the Oilers. Dylan Holloway closes out the scoring in the first with a backhander on Bobrovsky to make it 3-1 by the intermission, and by the time the second period comes around, the rest of the game just isn't a good look at all for Florida. Just over a minute into the second period, this happens.
Release full goal the other way, it's McDavid scores!
Connor McDavid scores his first goal of the Stanley Cup Finals to give the Oilers their fourth of the night, and as if it wasn't already bad enough for the Panthers, you know things are bad when Darnell Nurse, of all players, scores on you. Now, if you told me even 24 hours ago that Florida was going to pull Bobrovsky, I would have completely laughed in your face. But no, that's exactly what ended up happening. While the Oilers' scoring did slow down a little bit after this, they still managed to get a few more goals in. During a 5-on-3 advantage, Leon Draisaitl took a shot from his signature spot that ended up hitting the crossbar, but it was then tipped in by both Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Zach Hyman. Like, they literally both touched the puck at the exact same time. You could really credit either one of them with this goal. The scoring did slow down a bit more in the third period, but late in the third, Dylan Holloway scored his second of the night with a pass from McDavid, and he dove over the goalie, which looked pretty cool. I do think this should have been an offside, but it's not like that really matters anyways. And finally, McLeod closes out the scoring for the night to make the final 8-1 for Edmonton, which is absolutely insane. This was really such a fun game to watch, and hopefully Edmonton can keep up this momentum. Now, even though that was an absolute blowout by the Oilers, what do I think is going to happen in Game 5? Now, I do think that Edmonton is going to keep this momentum a little bit and win Game 5, but it will be a lot closer of a score, probably like 4-3 or something like that. I don't think Florida is going to let them score as many goals this time around, but I also think that Edmonton is going to narrowly win Game 5. One thing I've noticed a lot with the Oilers this year in the playoffs is that when they're facing elimination, they tend to clutch up and do really well. Look at Game 6 and Game 7 against Vancouver. In both games, if they lost, they would have been out of the series. And unfortunately, as I was rooting for Vancouver, they ended up doing really well both games. And then in Game 4 here against Florida, they ended up doing amazing, an 8-1 win. But my point is that when Edmonton is facing elimination, they tend to just put in 100% of the effort. While I don't think they're going to reverse sweep, I do think they could put this up for 1 or 2 more games. Even though I'm predicting the Edmonton Oilers winning Game 5, I do think that the Florida Panthers are going to win Game 6 and the series. Even though Edmonton's a good team and they won against Florida last night, I don't see it lasting more than 2 games. Florida's simply a better team usually. And I think last night their main issue was overconfidence, thinking they had it in the bag. And Game 6, that overconfidence would have fully worn off, and they might realize some of the pressure would be on them since they'd be facing elimination in a game or 2. So they'd put in 100% of the effort, and I do think that Florida is going to win this series in 6.